This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, and welcome to this pre-recorded webinar on the grant opportunity for the National Technical Assistance Center for Systemic Improvement. I'm Perry Williams, a project officer at the Office of Special Education Programs. The purpose of this webinar is to increase applicants' awareness and understanding of the requirements for this Technical Assistance Center. Please note, these slides are for guidance only, and the information has been summarized due to the logistics of the webinar. I strongly encourage you to read the notice carefully and to view the recorded webinar with information about applying for OSEP's discretionary grants and submitting a grant application. This discussion focuses on the program and absolute priority to include the expected outcomes, some application and administrative requirements, some information specific to this particular notice, including award amount and the selection criteria. This center is housed within OSEP's Technical Assistance and Dissemination Program. The purpose of the Technical Assistance and Dissemination Program to improve services and results for children with disabilities is to promote academic achievement and to improve results for children with disabilities by providing technical assistance, supporting model demonstration products, disseminating useful information, and implementing activities that are supported by scientifically based research. This is an absolute priority for which the purpose is to fund a cooperative agreement to establish and operate a National Technical Assistance Center to provide differentiated support to states to help them best use their general supervision and professional development systems to establish and meet high expectations and improve outcomes for children with disabilities. Please note, this center will focus on providing technical assistance to state education agencies to implement Part B of the IDA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which serve children ages 3 through 21, and will develop products or provide TA to SEAs on issues that impact the entire Part B system, such as general supervision or state systemic improvement plan implementation. The OSEP-funded TA related to young children ages birth through 5 with disabilities, and the IDA Part C and Section 619 programs will primarily be provided by the OSEP Early Childhood Centers funded under these CFDA numbers: 84.325B, 84.326B, 84.326P, and 84.373Z. The next 2 slides cover the 8 expected outcomes. OSEP expects the center to play a critical role in increasing the capacity of SEAs to align with broader general education initiatives to ensure every student Succeeds Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act implementation best supports the needs of children with disabilities. Effectively implement their general supervision systems that serve to improve results for children with disabilities while maintaining compliance with IDA. Effectively implement, evaluate, and revise as necessary their SIPs and ensure progress toward meeting their state-identified measurable result. Meaningfully and authentically engaging diverse including state-level partnerships and local stakeholders in ways that support the effective implementation of ESSA and IDEA. Support local education agencies in selecting and implementing evidence-based practices within frameworks. Some examples: multi-tiered systems of support, such as positive behavioral interventions and supports or response to intervention, or RTI. The next three outcomes are centered around engaging and collaborating with various offices and centers within and external to the Department of Education. The first two are focused on the center's responsibility to increase the capacity of SEA staff to fully engage families, including partnerships with OSEP-funded parent centers and the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education statewide family engagement centers in the implementation of systemic improvement efforts, and deliver effective TA to LEAs using an aligned TA model grounded in implementation and improvement sciences through collaboration with OSEP-funded technical assistance centers. And last, OSEP expects the center to improve access to objective information for families and youth with disabilities on the range of quality educational options and supports. In addition to these programmatic requirements to be considered for funding under this priority, the applicants must meet the application and administrative requirements in this priority. Applicants should carefully review and address the project activities that follow the programmatic requirements in both the NIA and full application. I will not address each activity that applicants are required to respond to in the application, but at a minimum, applicants must demonstrate how the project will address the current and emerging needs of SEAs to meet ESSA and IDEA requirements, assist SEAs with appropriately applying coherent improvement strategies, provide effective TA on how to implement evidence-based practices with fidelity, meaningfully and authentically engage diverse stakeholders, including state-level partnerships, assist states in evaluating their implementation efforts and their impact, collaborate and engage with other department and OSEP-funded TA centers and other partners as appropriate, ensure the effective implementation of SEA's results-based general supervision systems to support effective implementation of the IDA, and improve SEA infrastructure, which includes governance, fiscal system, quality standards, professional development, data sharing and analysis, TA, and accountability/monitoring, so SEAs can effectively implement the IDA and their SIPs. Award information. This is considered a cooperative agreement. Estimated available funds is $6,250,000. Contingent upon the availability of funds and the quality of applications, the department may make additional awards in FY 2020 from the list of unfunded applications from this competition. The maximum award amount, the department will not make an award exceeding $31,250,000 for a project period of 60 months. Note, applicants must describe in their applications the amount of funding being requested for each 12-month budget period. There's one award. Also note, the department is not bound by any estimates in this notice, and the project period is up to 60 months. Eligibility. The eligible applicants for this competition are SEAs, LEAs, including public charter schools that operate as LEAs under state law, institution of higher education, or IHEs, other public agencies, private nonprofit organizations, freely associated states and outlying areas, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, and for-profit organizations. A bit about the budget. Funds must be budgeted to cover costs for all activities and personnel of the center, including travel and set-aside. Required travel as listed in the NIA includes a 1 1/2 day kickoff meeting in Washington, D.C. after receipt of the award and an annual planning meeting in Washington, D.C. with the OSEP project officer and other relevant staff during each subsequent year of the project period. Also, a 2.5 day project directors conference in Washington, D.C. during each year of the project period. 2 annual trips to attend department briefings, department-sponsored conferences, and other meetings as requested by OSEP, and a 1-day intensive 3+2 review meeting in Washington, D.C. during the second year of the project period. There's also a set aside the line item for 5% of the annual award for emerging needs. Those needs are identified in collaboration with the OSEP project officer. Next, working with CIP3. CIP3 is the Center to Improve Program and Project Performance. The major tasks of CIP3 are to guide, coordinate, and oversee the design of formative evaluations for large discretionary investments and OSEP's technical assistance in dissemination, personnel development, parent training and information centers, and educational technology, media, and materials programs. The efforts of CIP3 are expected to enhance individual project evaluation plays by providing expert and unbiased TA in designing the evaluations with due consideration of the project's budget. CIP3 does not function as a third-party evaluator. The grantee will work with CIP3 to revise as needed the logic model submitted in the application to provide for a more comprehensive measurement of implementation and outcomes to reflect any changes or clarifications to the model discussed at the kickoff meeting. Refine the evaluation design and instrumentation proposed in the application consistent with the logic model, and revise as needed the evaluation plan submitted in the application such that it clearly specifies the measures and associated instruments or sources for data appropriate to the evaluation questions, suggests analytic strategies for those data, provides a timeline for conducting the evaluation, and includes staff assignments for completing the plan. Also, delineates the data expected to be available by the end of the second project year for use during the project's evaluation 3+2 review for continuing funding, and can be used to assist the project director and the OSEP project officer with the assistance of CIP3 as needed to specify the performance measures to be addressed in the project's annual performance report. In deciding whether to continue funding for the project for the 4th and 5th years, the Secretary will consider the EDGAR requirements, as well as the recommendation of the 3+2 review team consisting of experts selected by the Secretary. This review will be conducted during a 1-day intensive meeting that will be held during the last half of the second year of the project period. The success and timeliness with which the requirements of the negotiated cooperative agreement have been or are being met by the project, and the quality, relevance, and usefulness of the project's products and services, and the extent to which the products and services are aligned with the project's objectives and likely to result in the project achieving its intended outcomes. The next set of slides will describe the selection criteria for the competition. Reviewers will be awarding points based on each section of the narrative and will be asked to rate the application based on the following criteria: significance of the project, which is worth 10 points, quality of project services, worth 35 points, quality of project evaluation, worth 15 points, adequacy and resources and quality of project personnel, 15 points, quality of the management plan, worth 25 points. Significance. Applicants can receive up to 10 points for this criterion. Reviewers will consider the extent to which specific gaps or weaknesses in services, infrastructure, or opportunities have been identified and will be addressed by the proposed project, including the nature and magnitude of those gaps or weaknesses, the importance or magnitude of the results or outcomes likely to be attained by the proposed project, the extent to which the proposed project is supported by promising evidence, as defined in 34 CFR 77.1C. So I'm not going to read each of the sub-criterion for the remaining 4 selection criterion. The selection criterion are also in the NIA and application package, and applicants should carefully review. Here, quality of project services is worth 35 points, and there are 6 sub-criteria to address covered on the next 2 slides. It's also important to note that the quality and sufficiency of strategies for ensuring equal access and treatment for eligible project participants who are members of groups that have traditionally been underrepresented based on race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability is part of this criterion to be addressed. As I said, there are 6 of these to be addressed in this criteria. The next is quality of project evaluation, worth 15 points. As you can see, the following sub-criteria to be addressed underneath. Adequacy of resources and quality of project personnel, worth 15 points. You can see the following factors that are needed to address this criteria. These continue. Quality of the management plan is worth 25 points. Continued on this slide is the quality of management plan also. And now I want to move to submission procedures. We recommend that you register early on grants.gov, including registration on the System for Award Management, otherwise known as SAM, at www.sam.gov, which may take approximately 1 week. Note, applicants who are unable to submit an application via grants.gov by the application deadline due to an active SAM registration will not be considered for funding. Problems submitting to grants.gov before the closing date. We don't have the closing date yet because the priority has not been published. But if there are problems submitting, you can contact the customer service support at 1-800-518-4726. Applications will not be accepted after 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, and there are no exceptions. Formatting recommendations. Just a few words. First, the application narrative, part 3, is where applicant addresses the selection criteria that reviewers use to evaluate the application. We recommend the following. Page limit, no more than 70 pages in the narrative section with 1-inch margins. Double space all text in the narrative section, including charts, tables, screenshots, graphs, headings, footnotes, and citations. Use a 12-point font. Use one of the following font: Times New Roman, Courier New, or Arial. A page is 8.5 inches by 11 inches on one side only, with 1-inch margins at the top, bottom, and both sides. Page limit and spacing do not apply to Part 1, which is the cover sheet, Part 2, the budget section, and Part 4, the assurances and certification, or the abstract page. The abstract should precede the table of contents and application narrative. The abstract template is located at the link below, https://www.ed.gov/programs/OSEP-TMS/applicant.html. Appendices. Appendix A, reviewers will be instructed to review the content of Appendix A. This includes charts, tables, figures, graphs, screenshots, and logic models that provide information directly relating to the application requirements for the narrative. Should be the only items included in Appendix A. Appendix A should not be used for supplementary information. Please note that charts, tables, figures, graphs, screenshots, and logic models can be single-spaced when placed in an Appendix A. So, for further information, contact perry.williams@ed.gov. My phone number is 202-245-7575. Thank you.